So I'm writing a book. And as I've gone deeper into my writings, a topic has resurfaced, one that has lived quietly but persistently in my mind, rent free for decades. Lately, I've been waking up with a strong urge to finally speak on it, to release it, and maybe in doing so, help someone else find the words for feelings they've never quite been able to explain. Unfortunately, a widely publicized case that is currently in the media has forced me to speak. And I want to talk about something that can be hard for people to understand on the surface, and that is what it feels like to be triggered by seemingly endearing compliments about your physical appearance. Being called pretty, sexy, beautiful, and the like. Words that are often assumed to be harmless, even desirable. For some, this might sound like exaggeration or modesty, but if you've ever had your beauty weaponized against you, if you've ever had it used as justification for someone to cross the line, violate you, even SA you, then blame you being beautiful and pretty for their actions, then you understand how real these feelings are. For 2 weeks, I avoided making this video, but I can't sleep. And boy, oh boy, was it keeping me up at night, and it still is. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because I knew exactly what lived behind these words. And I struggled with how much of that truth I was ready to carry out loud. However, that changed when I read the transcript, some of the transcript of a case involving 7-year-old Athena. When they described what happened in the back of that FedEx truck, there was a moment, something her attacker said that completely broke something open in me. I won't go into it the details right this moment, but I will say this, it echoed words I've heard far too many times in my own life, because every time I found myself in situations where men tried to take advantage of me, and in some cases succeeded, unfortunately, the reasoning was disturbingly similar. It didn't matter the context, the relationship, or my age at the time. The message was always the same. Well, what do you expect? You're attractive. As if my existence in my own body was an invitation and excuse for what felt like punishment of being assaulted. As if my appearance was permission. As if harm was inevitable and therefore excusable. What made it even more difficult to process was hearing similar sentiments from men I trusted, men who saw themselves as the good ones, my own friends, people I confided in and was vulnerable enough to tell them my experiences. When I shared my experiences, their responses would sound very similar. Like, well, you're a beautiful woman and he's a man. Of course he's going to try. Mind you, this is after sometimes graphic details about me having to use my might to push them off or keep my pants and underpants on. Every time I would literally go quiet, stunned, I was trying to process how something so harmful could be said so casually, how normalized this way of thinking really is, and how deeply it runs, even in people who believe they mean well. That's when I realized this is about conditioning, socialization, and it's cultural. It's not about compliments triggering me. It's about what those words have been tied to. Because when women compliment me, I receive it fully. It feels safe. It feels genuine. I feel whole. But when men do, my body sometimes reacts before my mind can even catch up. I feel uneasy. I feel the urge to shrink, to hide, to run, to even do something or say something that makes me unappealing, usually masculine in nature. Rarely, does it ever work. Actually, I don't recall it ever working. There's anxiety, there's a sense of danger, and sometimes there's a sense of doom because I don't know what might come next or what expectation might be attached to those words, especially depending on the environment I'm in and where the exits are. That's something I'm actively still working through to an extent, because the truth is, this has taken something from me. It has stolen moments of joy. It has disrupted my ability to simply exist in my own beauty without fear attached to it. But I want to be clear about where I do stand today. I refuse to let that be the end of my story. I am learning to reclaim what was never meant to be taken from me in the first place, to accept that I can be beautiful and that beauty not be an invitation or justification, not a risk factor or any of that for someone else's predatory, because let's be clear, that's what it is, predatory behavior. It is not my responsibility to shrink so that men can remain in control of themselves. And I want to be clear about something else, especially for anyone who may need to hear this. There is nothing about being pretty, beautiful, or attractive that gives anyone the excuse to harm you. I don't care what they try to say to convince you that men are visual and hunters and go after what they want. Nothing about your appearance makes you responsible for someone else's lack of control, respect, or humanity. Nothing. The reality is, I have grown much stronger after working through this. I still have some time. I've become more aware, more protective of myself, and I will never again let someone violate me without resistance, physically, mentally, or emotionally. And when I say physically, I have exactly what I need to send you to meet your Lord and Savior. And there will be no hesitation to use it. But this is bigger than me, because when I think about Athena, a 7-year-old child whose last moments before being great and unalived included being told to remove her shirt, and when she asked why he was doing this, he said to her, "Because you are pretty. You know that?" And this is where I draw the line, completely unequivocally. As someone who actively works to protect children in and outside of the court system, who has dedicated much of my life to advocating for their safety, I cannot and will not stay silent about things like this anymore. This conversation matters. We have to start dismantling the idea that attraction equals entitlement, that beauty equals access, that harm can ever be explained away by desire. And for those of us who are healing from these experiences like this, you are allowed to take your time. You are allowed to feel what you feel. It's not all in your head. And you are allowed to redefine what those words mean to you on your terms. For me, that means learning to hear that I am beautiful without attaching fear to it. And that's not because the world has changed overnight, but because I am reclaiming my right to exist fully, freely, and safely in who I am. And that is something no one gets to take away from me again. Believe that.